Hey, what up y'all? Mr. Cruz here, your friendly neighborhood producer, back with another video. And in today's video, 2 years later, we're taking a look at Drip. Let's go. So this is different than my typical free review ditch or download plugin. This is actually a paid plugin. I think it's around $25, $35. So it's a pretty affordable plugin, but the whole thing about Drip that kind of propelled it to like a cult status in a way is, for one, this plugin is designed by Kyle Beats. Kyle Beats is a pretty big name in the producer community, especially the online community. And I say that with significance because not a lot of producers, at least ones that we've seen, have gone from production into plugin development. So I'm not saying that he was the first one, but he's definitely one of the biggest ones, or at least a producer who's made one of the biggest plugins that is pretty synonymous with, you know, his brand. And of course, I can't even continue going forward without talking about like the whole gimmicky 2 clicks and it's done type of deal, the whole marketing tactic, which was genius because it did bring about a lot of memes, but it did like cement the Drip plugin into like the forefront of our minds. So we're going to take a look at this plugin here. Before we do that, of course, I want to go over the parameters and how to use this thing. For starters, we have the preset name up here. So if you click the preset name, it's going to take you to this matrix where you can pick a bunch of other different presets. And you have 2 banks, actually. It says 3, but you really have 2. These first 2 are the banks that you can use. And 3 is kind of designated for user or like, you know, custom presets that you make. So I made this one here, Big Pimpin'. I'm going to show you guys how you can make this because no manual, so there's no explanation onto how you can do it. So let's say I found this one right here, so too bright. Let's say I want to turn this like this. All right, instead of this one, I want to use this one. Instead of this one, I want to use this one. And let's turn it down a little bit. All right, so now I've made all those edits and all those adjustments to the initial too bright preset. So I'm gonna go back here, and I'm gonna go here, and then I am going to bam, save it. And instead of too bright, we're gonna call it too dark. Hit OK. All right, so now when I click too dark, it now saves everything that I had done previously. So we can kind of go forward to the default user preset, which is empty. And if we go back, bam, too dark is there. And it's cool because it's very simple. You also get this random button here, which is also great. Let's talk about what these modules right here are. These 4 modules, the main ones that you have are shape, heat, spice, and depth. Shape is a bit crushing module. Heat is distortion, so this is your distortion unit. Spice is the only one that's kind of very different than the rest of them. This is kind of like a flanger, chorusy, tremolo kind of effect. This one, if you really like what Drip is doing, it's more than likely because this one right here is really, I don't know, dialing it in to make it sound fire. And then depth is your reverb module here. Down here, you get this huge mix knob that you can blend the effect in. And here on these 2 on the sides, right? This one on the left over here is a delay here. And this button here, if I turn this button on and off, this will turn the BPM sync off. So now it's synced to my project instead of just by milliseconds. On the right side, we have this like high shelf unit. And what this does is actually turns it into kind of like a tremolo effect. There's this other plugin called Flux Mini 2 that kind of does the same thing, but it's like a standalone version of this. So with the high shelf, you can turn this in order to tune it to wherever you want the high shelf to be. And the speed will determine how frequently or what the resolution of that boosting in that high shelf is going to be. All of that is just to explain what Drip is, and it's probably way more of an explanation than is probably necessary, but when the plugin doesn't have a manual, that's kind of what I'm forced to do. Let's go ahead and turn this on and see what we can do with this piano chord melody that I have here. So let's take a listen to the piano chords without Drip on it right now. So we're gonna turn Drip on here, and now we're gonna kind of crank this out. Now, all throughout this, all I really have is just some EQ moves that I have there, but other than that, there's no effects. I mean, I have a little imager on there, but even that imager is not cranked up to the max. So let's go ahead and let's start with Too Dark. Holy crap, that is terrible. All right, I'm not gonna hold that against Kyle, don't worry. All right, let's mess around with some of this other stuff. All right, that sounds dope. That sounds dope too. That is also good. All right. All right, one thing that I do want to show you guys is I want to show you what the spice effect does or what the spice knob does. So with most of this stuff turned down except for shape, I'm going to crank up the spice so you can kind of hear how like that chorusy kind of effect comes into play, all right? Now you kind of hear that. I'm going to turn it back down. Zero spice. Like a cup full of adobo. So overall, the drip plugin, does it sound good? How is it 2 years after the fact? I think 2 years after the fact, if you have the money and if you're like kind of bored with some of the plugins that you already use, then it's probably a go-to. I would say that it's probably more expensive than I would think a plugin like that to be. I would maybe say, you know, no more than $25 for a plugin like that. But I think the appeal of having a plugin that you can just like drop on an instrument, make a couple clicks, and like it sound vastly different than like what you initially had, that can kind of be far more inspiring. And for me as a producer, one of the things that I oftentimes struggle with is like, man, I'll spend, you know, 15-20 minutes coming up with a melody and with a loop or a chord progression, and I still don't like the way that it sounds. It's not that the chord progression is bad, but like I'm gonna spend, you know, the next 20 minutes sifting through presets on like, you know, I don't know, Omnisphere or Expand or whatever, and still not find the right sound. Like with this, even if the patch that you start out with does not sound good, then I definitely think throwing something like drip on is going to be able to bring more life to whatever melody you're kind of working with. I don't even want to say like, yo, ditch or download, because this is a paid plugin and it's not a free plugin. But if you have the money and if you can catch it on a sale, it's worth it. I think the interface is simple enough that it can kind of take you from something dry to something inspirational very quickly. And I think you have a lot of capabilities. There's so many different kind of combinations that you can kind of create with this, that if you have the money and if you catch it on a sale, definitely snatch this one up. Well, that's what I got for you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you're interested in checking out some more videos around free plugins, click this video right here. Other than that, it is your boy, Mr. Cruz, out.